Okay, I think we are just about ready to get started. I want to start off by saying I appreciate you all taking the time to join us today and learn a little bit more about virtual and augmented reality and how it has changed the way we teach. I know it's a really busy time of year for many of you, so we'll make sure that this session is very informative as well as not taking up too much time. Just a quick overview of our agenda today. If you haven't already had the chance to do so, please take a moment to fill out the poll questions just so we can better understand who you are that's joining us today, what your experience is with AR and VR, and what you're looking for or how to use it in your classroom or at your district. I believe I'd already mentioned it too, that if you do have any questions, please feel free to ask them throughout the session. We do have a Q&A section as well as our chat. I will do my best to answer everything that I possibly can as we go through it today. If there is anything that we can't answer for you, we'll make sure we get back to you within 24 hours with an answer. To start, I do a little bit of introduction of who I am. So my name is Alessandra Tino, and I am the Education Specialist at CDI Technologies. My background includes being a classroom educator, both in an elementary school as well as a special needs classroom. As well, I've spent the past 5 years working with ed tech companies and educational institutions, helping provide solutions to schools across North America. Today, I'm going to give you a bit of an introduction of who we are at CDI if you are new joining us, an overview of how AR and VR can be used in the classroom, introduce ClassVR, as well as Chris Klein, who is their education specialist. He will be kind of taking over and doing a deeper dive into the features and benefits of ClassVR, and then we'll answer any additional questions at the end today. As well, just to mention, we will be sharing the recording of this webinar at the end of today's session. So CDI has been providing technology solutions to the education space for the past 30 years. We have really moved from providing just devices to a more holistic approach to educational technology and looking at solutions and learning tools. That is why something like augmented reality and virtual reality is really important to us, because that's where we see the growth happening in schools today and in the education system. This includes providing more tools and resources, like I said, to meet the needs of 21st century learners and help improve student engagement in the classroom. Overall, we want to make sure we're able to connect students to the best-in-class devices, make deployment and device management easier for schools and districts, and overall want to inspire students to reach their full potential. Our reach has been all across North America, with working with over 10,000 schools and supporting over 2 million devices to date. So why AR and VR? Many of you have probably heard a lot about it, have seen it, used it for both personal reasons as well as educational purposes. But really, augmented reality and virtual reality have taken over, I guess, just the technology space. Virtual reality adds an element to a live view. Many of you may have known this through Pokemon Go, which was a huge sensation past couple of years, as well as with Snapchat and the Snapchat filters that are added on into it. So with this increasing popularity, education has become the 4th largest sector for augmented reality and virtual reality technology, with over 80% of teachers having access to AR and VR devices. However, with our own research, we've found that only about 7% use them for educational purposes. A lot of them use it for fun, but have difficulty finding ways to connect it to the curriculum. And we believe there's great opportunity for improvement in classroom engagement, helping to make curriculum connections, and even build on social emotional learning competencies through AR and VR. This is why CDI has partnered with ClassVR. So ClassVR has been designed for classroom teaching, including a really easy to use headset, a teacher portal, curriculum aligned resources, and the ability for teachers to actually create their own content, as well as they provide installation professional development support. I will touch base on some of these points, but really we'll pass it on to Chris in a bit from ClassVR, who will do more of the deeper dive into different specifications. So the actual hardware itself This is where it's different from its competition in the space, because ClassVR is a standalone VR, AR, and MR headset. So you don't have to add any additional tablets or smartphones to it. It comes all in one. As I mentioned, it is designed for classroom use, and it can come in either a set of 4 or 8. And they also have charging carts that they've just introduced that Chris will talk a bit more about. And it really makes it more secure, easy to move from class to class if it is being shared. They do sell individual headsets, but you have to get it at a minimum of 10. About the student interface, this is something that's really cool from our own standpoint from using it. When students have it on, it's really easy to use. They can use hand gestures as controls, and there are easy controls on the side. One big feature for teachers is that it is locked, and so students can't go in and make any system changes compared to some other devices. And the teacher can customize what students see. They can also add content through scanning a QR code, which is pretty easy. There's a teacher portal control, which makes it a lot easier for teachers to upload the content they want on there, make connections to the type of lessons they're already creating in the classroom. There's a community of uploaded content that teachers can search, or if they want to create their own, they're able to do so as well. And just kind of quickly going over some of the curriculum-aligned resources that are on there. There are pre-made activities, and they do launch new content often. And as I mentioned, there's a global community of shared content, which as an educator myself, I thought that this was a really great point, because you're spending less time focusing on trying to figure out how to connect it to the classroom, but you already have a whole community. You can see where they've used it and how they've used it. So that's just a quick overview of ClassVR. I'm now going to pass it on to Chris. So Chris, if you are there to kind of chat in, and he will go into more of the nitty-gritty details around ClassVR and why it will be great to improve learning in your classroom.
Thank you very much. I hope everyone can hear me. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes, I think we can.
Excellent. I just wanted to make sure of that. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen now. Here we go. And share. So while this is pulling up, I would like to just go ahead and introduce myself. My name is Chris Klein. I am the education specialist for North America for ClassVR. As Alessandra was, I was also a former teacher. I was a former technology coordinator. I worked at the elementary level, middle school, high school, as well as at the collegiate level, working with pre-service teachers. My role in the education field was always being the go-between between the people that made the decisions on the networking side and the people that actually did the implementation on the curriculum side, and I sort of helped both sides talk to each other as opposed to doing their own separate things. So what I bring to the table here is a deep understanding of how to integrate the technology, as well as how to talk to the networking side and the administrative side into why the technology makes sense and how easily it can work within your existing infrastructure and systems. So to begin with, let's, Alessandra did a great job of talking about, the growth of VR and AR in education. I'm going to talk a little bit about that, and then I also want to give you an overview of our hardware, our portal, our device management, and then talk a little bit about content, and then finally close with sort of the impact in the classroom. So I am going to go a little bit deeper into some of these things. If I repeat anything that has already previously been said, I apologize. But please, if there are any questions, etc., go ahead and use the chat window, and I will address them as best I can. So virtual reality and augmented reality in education, what can it truly offer? When we got started into this venture, we looked at it and said, what is it that we're trying to do? What is our ultimate driving philosophy at ClassVR? And it was, we wanted to help students move closer to the content. And that's really sort of our guiding philosophy. We know by looking at Edgar Dale's Cone of Learning, we know by looking at the SAMR model, the more experiential that we can make the environment for the student, the more likely they're going to remember the content. So everything we do is really trying to have the students have an experience And with that experience of remembering the content that goes along with that experience, and it's more personal, they can feel it, it's emotional, and therefore they have better knowledge retention. So by engaging the students, we believe virtual and augmented reality can really take us to that next step of where the students are actually sensing, feeling, and interacting with that content in a way that couldn't be done by just simply looking at a picture on the wall or a picture in a book, etc. This opens a door for new ways to explore the curriculum. It's one thing to show a picture of someone in a hot air balloon. It's another thing to put on a virtual reality headset and be above Switzerland and looking down and seeing what it's actually like. Now, obviously, for some people that have fear of heights, this is something that we can use to get over. But an interesting note is that this is actually also used in the medical field to help people get over things such as fear of flying, fear of heights, and so on, because they still have their feet on the ground, but yet everything else tells them they're in the air, and it helps desensitize them to that. New ways to explore the curriculum through video, through augmented reality, through images, as well as new opportunities to create and code. So not only do we talk about at ClassVR of just consuming the content, because there's a lot of great content out there to consume. There's a lot of great apps like Google Expeditions and things like that that is really all about consumption. But we also want to make it easy and simple for you, the teacher, and the students to be able to create your own experiences, create your own environment, including adding in some coding if you're looking to have a tie-in into a STEM curriculum. And I will talk a little bit more about that when I discuss content. So when we take a look at the ClassVR overview of what we do, it truly is a complete system for implementing VR and AR in the classroom. A lot of offerings out there really are a device and an app. You can purchase a device through a company, you can use your own cell phone, you slot it into some sort of either cardboard or plastic viewer, and then you can go on to Google Play or the iOS store, and you can find an app to download, and basically the app is now doing the instruction. That's not what we are trying to do here. We wanted to create an instructional system, and part of that is building in the necessary tools to allow the teacher to easily integrate VR and AR into their existing curriculum. So when we talk about ClassVR, it is a complete system. It's made up of hardware, software, content, training, and support. It's not something where, well, you bought that phone from Samsung, so now you have to go to Samsung for support, but this app was written by someone else, and that good luck getting in touch with that developer. We wanted to be sort of the one-stop shop so that you could get everything that you needed, as well as the training and the support to really make this effective in your classroom. We are designed specifically for education. I'm not going to say that we sell only into education, because we have found that anyone dealing with a group of learners that it has looked at ClassVR, and we have sold successfully into corporate, government, military, higher education, healthcare, but our primary focus and everything we build is designed for the needs of K-12, not those other sectors. They can choose to use whatever we build, whatever features and benefits are there or not, but we design for the classroom teacher. Our system can be used in a whole class scenario, so that I am in the front of the classroom and everyone has on a headset and I'm taking everyone through the same content at the same time, but it can also be used for independent learning. I can focus the students on a smaller subset of items. The students can actually self-navigate. It's really up to the teacher. The teacher is in control of this entire environment, and they can decide whether they want it to be teacher-led, student-led, whether they want a whole class, whether they want small groups, whether they want to pair the students up. It's meant to work with the ebb and flow of your curriculum and how you choose to teach. It also supports self-created content, and this is something that I think you'll find nobody else is really doing. So we are not a content company in and of ourselves. We are not a Houghton Mifflin, we are not a McGraw-Hill, we are not a Pearson, we are not a textbook company. We are not here to give someone their curriculum. What we are here to do is to make the integration of VR and AR into that curriculum much easier. So as a result of that, not only do we provide you with a whole lot of great content to begin with as a starter pack, but we also make it very simple for you to bring in your own content, such as 360 videos, photos, 3D models. So if you're using something like a 360 camera, you're able to take that on a field trip, you're able to record video, take pictures, bring that back in, use it with the headsets for your other classes. If you're using something like a 3D printer, you're able to take that 3D printer file, convert that over, and use that with the students in augmented reality. So the idea here is we wanted to provide you with a system, a one-stop shop, but not a closed door system. We wanted you to be able to continue to expand and take this concept of the ClassVR system into wherever it is you're going today, tomorrow, next year, and so on. So when we talk about the hardware, it is a standalone VR headset. So there's no mobile phone that's needed. This means that you don't have to worry, there's less damage to worry about, as well as overheating, because one of the big things when you're dealing with your own device that you're slotting into a system is the screen has to be on the entire time. One of the things that we actually have built in is what's called a proximity sensor. So the device recognizes when the headset is on the student's face versus being set on the desk in front of them. If the device is not on the student's face, the proximity sensor will actually dim the display, not only to help conserve battery life, but also to prevent overheating of the unit. Everything is integrated. All the electronics there, you have access to all the ports that would normally be on a mobile or a tablet system. Those are located on the bottom side of the headset, as well as charging. So everything we sell actually comes with integrated charging. So whether it's a pack of 4, 8, or a cart, there's a USB hub, everything plugs into that. And basically you simply put the device into the case or cart and you plug in a micro USB and then one plug to go into the wall, and it will charge the entire system of however many units you have. We do have a custom educational interface. So as was mentioned, when the students put the headsets on, they're actually in a virtual reality environment immediately. We actually have these headsets as appliances, is how I quite often refer to them. So when the students put them on, the only thing they have the choice to do is to consume the content that the teachers have chosen to share with the students for that class period. There is not an operating system that they can go to. There are not apps or games that they can launch. There's not even a web browser on here. So the idea is, how can I, as a student, put on the headset and not be distracted by content, options, apps, or whatever else other than what the teacher wants me to focus on? That is what our educational interface is about. So the students put the headset on, and they can only consume what the teachers have chosen to put on there for them. So it keeps them very focused, and it gives them the full breadth of VR and AR, but it's limited by the teacher's functionality of what they want them to have for their curriculum that period. There is a unique gesture control system. This was mentioned previously, where it does things like if I want to launch a piece of content, I can do a thumbs up symbol, and the front-facing camera will recognize that. But more importantly than that, the biggest gesture that I find to be most successful is whenever you are in a VR space, one of the large problems is, how do I see behind me? I'm in a 360-degree environment. And in a classroom, this gets even more complicated because you have students that are having to stand up, walk around, turn around, they're bumping into things, and now you're looking at how do I keep students from hurting themselves as opposed to enjoying and interacting with the content. So one of the things that we have built in is a simple head tilt. So if you were tilting your head to the left or to the right, as if you're touching your ear to your shoulder, it will spin that 360-degree environment around like a carousel, so you can see what is going on in the background or what's going on behind you without having to worry about bumping into things, and you don't need to have swivel chairs for all of your students to be able to use that. Our environment is designed specifically for the classroom, as is the headset. It's nice bright orange, it's very durable, it's got a plastic shell around the screen, so breakage is very rare, dropping may crack the case around it, but it's actually not breaking the screen, as we've all seen happen to mobile devices, etc. We do support augmented reality. This is available because we do have a front-facing camera. It's usable in headset hands-free, so I am able to actually use a passive trackpad on the side to be able to rotate and look at augmented reality content. But I can also use our augmented reality cubes, which are simply foam cubes, or you can print out paper versions as well. Has a QR code on each side, and when you hold that up, it will map your 3D model to that cube, so I can actually be holding that beating human heart, or holding the artifact from King Tut's tomb, even though I'm just holding a piece of foam. But it will allow me to hold that, pull it closer, rotate it, etc., as if I was holding the actual object. The way the hardware is sold is in sets of 4 or 8. They come in PVC carrying cases. A set of 4 comes with a handle. A set of 8 actually comes with a telescoping handle as well as wheels. So it's kind of like the size of a piece of carry-on luggage. And we are announcing as of Monday, we will be showing this next week at ISTE. So if any of you are coming to that, please stop by. But we are launching a new 30-unit cart as well. One of the nice things about the cart is that we also have built-in UV lighting inside each drawer of the cart to help sanitize and kill bacteria that may be on the foam of the headsets in between uses. So we want to make sure that we're providing you with the portability, with the security, with the ease of use of one plug charging, as well as the sanitary needs that you might have for a 30-unit cart. For the 4 or the 8, a lot of schools will just simply purchase antiseptic wipes and wipe down the foam in between uses. The second part of our system is the ClassVR portal. And this is actually one of the most important things that we do. So there are a lot of devices out there, and as I said, there are devices that use apps. But we actually have a unique management portal. This management portal allows you, the teacher, to very quickly and easily be able to interact with the content prior to teaching, as well as with the devices during teaching. So you can quickly search through the curriculum resources. You can build and save and share your playlist with other teachers within your school. So if I'm a 4th grade teacher and I'm using the headsets for geography, I can go ahead and build a playlist and share it with the other 4th grade teachers so they don't have to recreate the wheel. I can launch activities on all the headsets at the same time so that everyone is looking at the same thing. I can drop dynamic points of interest on any image or video to highlight certain areas for the students to be looking at that I want to draw their attention towards. I can also see where the students are looking, as well as a live video feed of every headset in use. The important thing to note about that is as I'm looking at the live video feeds, I can also click on a headset and it will give that to me full screen. Why is that important? Because you will find that there is a small subset of students and teachers that have a difficult time using VR because of motion sickness or vertigo or something like that. By having the ability to take a video feed from a headset and put it full screen, if my computer is plugged into a projector or into a flat panel, I can have all of my students looking at what another student is experiencing, but they're doing it on a 2D display. Therefore, all of my students are still able to use the content that I'm building for them, as opposed to being resorting to having to use a worksheet or something like that. I do have activity lock as well, so if I have all the students in an environment and I don't want them going anywhere else, I can make sure that they cannot leave that environment. I can also access and launch extra content, things that I found from third parties. If I downloaded a video off of YouTube, or I found a great image on Flickr, or if I'm using one of our other content partners like CoSpaces or something like that, I can bring all that extra content and I can upload any content that I've also generated myself. The last thing, and this is really more for sort of the IT side of the house, we do have device and user management. So people start to think, well, if this is a student device, I need to put an MDM software on there. How do I do that, etc. This is actually all built into our system. So we do have a management portal for administrators and the tech department. This allows them to monitor the devices, receiving constant updates on battery levels, temperatures, what firmware they're on, if there's a client update that's waiting for it, the serial numbers of the devices. They can put asset tag notes in there. They can easily rename the devices. They can manage their users. They can deploy security certificates from one point instead of having to do it on each individual headset. And if they're adding in new access points and they want the device to go to a certain access point, they can do all of that easily from within our management portal infrastructure. Now, to access the management portal and to access the content that we provide, there's actually a subscription. So you do purchase a hardware, and then there's an annual subscription of $399 per school per year for access to the content and some of the other features. So with that $399, that covers as many teachers and as many devices as you may have. This does also give you access to over 1,000 pieces of starter content. These are videos, these are images, this is 3D models, collections of content aligned to common topics. So we've gone in there, we've said, well, here's something if you're looking for airfare, if you're looking for ancient Egypt. We've put those together in simple collections for you. You can also build your own though. We have provided a sample library of some cross-curricular lesson plans to give your teachers ideas on how to integrate the content, as well as augmented reality worksheets, how to build that in. New content is added regularly every month, and we also have a global community of shared content. So this is what was mentioned earlier, where I have users from around the world that are utilizing ClassVR, that they've created their own playlist and they have shared that content for other teachers to use. We also support content uploads of your own 360 images and videos, your own 3D models, and we do work with third-party content such as CoSpaces. When I talk about user-generated content, what am I looking at? Well, we're looking at a simple drag and drop interface, first of all. So it's a matter of me having the content on my computer. I go into the portal and I simply click, drag, drop, and that will upload it into the portal, which I can then push out to the headsets. When we're dealing with images, we're not talking about anything fancy. We're looking at equirectangular JPEG and PNG files. So yes, you can go, people have asked me quite often, well, what if I find can I use my iPhone? You can. You can take a panorama picture, a 360 picture with your iPhone. The difference is that it will lose the top and the bottom because it's actually not taking the photo above and below you. So you could load that image because that's just a JPEG and you will get the basics of VR. But if you are using a 360 camera like the Ricoh Theta or something like that, you're able to much easier grab a full 360 image or a video, etc., and you're easily able to upload that. If you find a video on YouTube or on other websites, etc., if you can download that content to your computer, we can upload it into the portal, which just simply has to be an MP4 file. As 3D models go, we support GLB. You can export from Paint 3D. We have people that are exporting from Minecraft, Sketchfab, and all of this is because as long as you can convert it from other formats, which we are also announcing the ability to import from STL, which is quite often used for 3D printers. So if you take a look, for example, at how that could fit into your instruction, we all know that 3D printers are fantastic. The only downside of them is it takes about 4 to 6 hours to print something. So as a teacher, I can go ahead and be working with a file, and I can send the print job to the printer, and then tomorrow I'll be able to show the students this is the actual object that we printed. In the meantime, since I still have 30 minutes left in class, I can take that STL file, put it into the ClassVR portal, and push it out to the headsets, and the students can then use those cubes that I was talking about previously, and they can instantly be holding that model in their hand, but they're holding a virtual version of it. So it's a great way to be able to check and make sure that an object is the way you want it before you print it, or it can be used so the whole class can have it in their hand, and then tomorrow we come in and we actually look at the physical printed item that was printing overnight. When you add in the ability to bring in 360 photography also 3D models, videos, and co-spaces. This really opens a door for you to be able to get very creative and code with this software or with this platform. So for example, I don't know how many of you are familiar with co-spaces. Co-spaces is a great partner of ours. They are a third-party company. They have a free version and an education version that is very inexpensive. The website is cospaces.io. And basically it's like Minecraft for VR. It supports Blockly programming language. It supports JavaScript programming language. It has a full 3D model library that the students or yourself are able to go in and build this virtual space. And then you can bring that over onto our headsets and the students are able to walk through and navigate through that 3D environment. Why is that important? It's important because you're looking at a technology that is traditionally thought of as easy integration in science and in geography. What about math and language arts? Well, here's a real world example for you. My daughter is going into her junior year. Last year, well, I guess 2 years ago now, her as a freshman, her English lit teacher wanted to use VR in the classroom, and they wanted to talk about how they could how that could enhance what it was they were teaching, but she didn't know how to do that. So I talked to her, we talked about it, we looked at what she was about to teach, which was Romeo and Juliet, and we took the students down to the computer lab. Yes, they still have an actual computer lab, and we logged all the students into CoSpaces. Inside CoSpaces, each student was given an act and a scene from the play. So my daughter, being the guinea pig, had Act 1, Scene 1, Romeo and Juliet, the streets of Verona. She had to read that scene, then go into CoSpaces and basically do a virtual set design, build what that scene actually looked like. Then when they went back to the classroom, before they read Act 1, Scene 1, all the students put the headsets on, and they were actually able to navigate and walk through the streets of Verona, see whether it was daytime, nighttime, what the environment looked like, how many people were in the scene, and so on, to get the context of what they were reading. And therefore, it made it much stickier, and it made it much more experiential for them. So there is a lot of opportunity here. Obviously, there's surface level, but as your teachers get more and more familiar and comfortable with 3D models, with the coding, with the 360 photography, our system will grow with their capabilities. So what benefits can virtual and augmented reality really have in education? Improved knowledge retention through personal experience. Again, I go back to what was that primary item that drives our philosophy when it comes to VR and AR. It's getting the students as close to the content as possible, making it experiential. That will help improve their retention of the knowledge that went along with that experience. We want to increase the engagement through the redefinition of learning tasks. It's one thing to read something, it's another thing to explore. Again, if we look at the Sammer model, if we look at Edgar Dale's Cone of Learning, you will see that the more that you can get the students hands-on, this whole problem-based learning, etc., it's really trying to raise their awareness and drive this definition of instruction deeper with the students. And it also improves access to experience for all students. I've talked to students that live in the Bronx, and they have no idea what it's like on a cattle farm in Kansas. With a virtual video, with a VR video, they're able to experience that. I've spoken with several students that have never have any hopes of traveling to Hawaii or overseas, and they're able to experience that and see what it looks like, etc., because of the use of VR and AR in the instruction. You will see that there is an impact on writing. One of the very first examples we did as a company is when we were testing this, we went to a school, we worked with what would be equivalent to a 4th grade student, and we said, here's a book about sharks, we're going to give you 30 minutes, look at it, read through it, etc., and then write us a 3-paragraph story about sharks. And the student did that, and they turned in what was equivalent to D+ level work, D as in dog. We then put them inside the headset. with a unique shark experience video where there was a great white shark swimming around him. You were underwater. You were able to see the school of fish. You were able to hear a voiceover. They took the headset off after that experience, which was about 2.5 minutes. And we said, now please go ahead and we want you to, again, write a 3-paragraph story about sharks. And he turned in something that was B+ level work, as in boy, B as in boy. So 2 grade level increases. And again, this is anecdotal information, I understand that. But again, the more we can tap into the experience for the child, the more likely they're going to be able to write about it with more emotion and insight. They can explore key concepts in 3D by using augmented reality. This is going to improve engagement. You can also use situational videos and experiences to increase empathy. It widens access to students that wouldn't otherwise be able to have it, whether it be due to finances or other limiting factors. And it also allows them to create in new ways by utilizing some of these third-party options that are out there. Our website is classvr.com. Obviously, our Twitter handle is @ClassVR. My Twitter handle is @Chris_ClassVR. We will be at ISTE next week in booth 2644. If any of you are going to be in Philadelphia, we'd love to have you come by and say hi and get some hands-on so we can answer any questions you might happen to have. And that's all I have, so I can open up for questions now.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Chris. There have been a couple of questions that have come through so far through the chat. One I was going over quickly, but it was specific examples on how math can be used. And so I searched in there and I was able to find that there are already preloaded lessons on estimation and counting, as well as fractal and geometric shapes. I don't know if there's anything else you could add in terms of math being used in the classroom with ClassVR.
The primary way that I see it being utilized with mathematics, as you mentioned, with geometric shapes and things like that, dealing with solids, dealing with cubes versus pyramids and so on, but also things such as, here is a 360 image, identify all of the circles that you can find in this image, whether it be a sign, whether it be a circle within a fence structure, a circle for a manhole cover. That's primarily how I see it get used. However, when you add in something like co-spaces, like that third-party content that I talked about, you are also able to build that environment where it sort of is here's a math problem, figure out this math problem, and then go into door A or door B based off of what you think the answer is. So they're able to see the problem, they're able to solve the problem, and then if they have to make a choice, almost like a choose your own adventure, to go into this pathway or that pathway, which may or may not be the right or wrong answer for them. So there's ways to build in that feedback as well.
Okay, perfect. That sounds great. Another question we have here is, and I know that a lot of the curriculum and the content we have online isn't available in different languages, but do we have French resources that you're aware of on there?
So yes, there are resources in French that are available. I mean, we're dealing with a couple of different things here. We're dealing with the titles of the files. We're dealing with with the language that's used throughout the interface, and that's both for the teacher as well as for the student. And then we're dealing with languages within the content. So languages within the content, that would rely on ultimately the piece of content. What do I mean? If I go on YouTube and I find a great video, but the language track is in English, and then I put that on the headsets, the language track is still going to be in English. If I find a French video and load it on there, the video track will be in French, because that's actually baked into the content that you're using. As for the interface within the management portal, yes, you can go in there and change the language, and that will change all the commands, the controls, and all of that into French. And then if you're dealing within the headset environment, yes, it will also recognize in French, but again, that's probably more the file names more than anything else, because the students, when they put the headset on, they will see the experiences available to them, and they will see the title of that experience. So when you are naming a piece of content, you would name it in French, and then the students would see that in French.
Okay, perfect. That sounds great. And it's good that it's flexible, not just with French, as you mentioned, but you can change it to other languages as well, which is awesome and very helpful, I know, for many teachers who do teach foreign languages. Another question we have is, do the devices still work if they're not connected to Wi-Fi?
Yes, they do. The content that is pushed to the headset, well, let me take half a step back on that. There is content, for example, if you were to load a CoSpaces environment onto the headset, that does require a connection to the internet to be able to navigate through that space. However, the images and the videos that you would place on the headset to support your curriculum, those are installed on the headset when you push the content. So those are all localized. At that point, once the content is localized, the student is able to take that headset onto the bus, out into the woods or wherever, and they would still be able to launch and view that video and or look at that image. What they would be missing, though, is the teacher would not be able to control anything. The teacher would not be able to lock them into an environment. They would not be able to drop dynamic hotspots on the image or content that they were looking at, because you would be losing that teacher control portal aspect. But the devices themselves will retain that content if they are offline, because it's not a constant stream. It's actually a localized content that's being played on the devices.
Okay, perfect. And then I think the last question here is if it's mapped to Indian school curriculum, and I believe you had mentioned that it's not aligned with any specific curriculum standards, but rather just meeting the general learning objectives of students and can be used internationally. Is that correct?
Yeah, the way I look at it, and quite often I get asked about, does this align to XYZ standard? The answer is no, because what we're dealing with is we're dealing with individual pieces of content. We're dealing with resources. So I think everyone on the call understands that what really gets aligned are the actual pedagogy, how you teach something. So this is no more aligned than a pull-down map would be in your classroom or a physical globe. But these are resources that would go into your content or would go into your curriculum, and your curriculum is already aligned to whatever standards it is you're looking for. So again, we're dealing with images, video, 3D models. These are digital resources, but they're not a lesson in and of themselves. They're simply objects that can be used within your existing lesson, and that's where the alignment occurs.
Perfect. Awesome. Well, thank you. Are there any additional questions? Give everyone a moment. In the meantime, if anyone is typing anything in, I want to thank Chris. He has done an incredible job overviewing ClassVR. I hope you found the session today to be very informative. We got some great poll questions back from the beginning, and we'll be sending a follow-up with the recording of the webinar today, as well as some additional resources on ClassVR. As Chris mentioned, if anyone will be attending ISTE trade show next week, ClassVR will be there with the booth. Chris, what's the booth number again?
2644.
2644, perfect. And CDI will be there as well, and Chris will be presenting at the CDI booth, and our booth number is 2036. So you can come visit both of us and come by and say hello. We can share the PowerPoint as well, I believe. That shouldn't be an issue. That was another question that just came through. And I think that is everything for today. So thank you again for everyone for participating. I hope you found the session to be informative on ClassVR. And like I said, we will follow up with more resources shortly. Perfect. Thank you. Have a great day. Bye.